Welcome to the next episode of HR Mavericks. I'm your host, Garrett Justice, and today I'm joined by Amber Parr, who's the HR manager at Sundance. Amber, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into our topic today. I think it's going to be a really good one, and really thankful for you for joining, taking the time today to kind of share some of your insights with us. But again, before we do, like all of our episodes, we want to understand a little bit more about your background and about your company, Sundance, because people hear Sundance, they think of the resort or they think of lots of different things. There's a few different companies kind of associated with that name. And so tell us a little bit more about that and also your career background.
Okay. Cool. So I guess I'll just start with my career and then go from there. I actually fell into HR by accident. Probably, I think that's the case for a lot of people. I was about 20 years old and was a store manager at a cell phone company. And I had a friend who was a director at a nonprofit organization that provided several services for children with disabilities that were in foster care. And he's like, hey, you should apply for this HR entry-level position. And I was actually super drawn to it, not necessarily because of the HR opportunity per se, but because I thought I wanted to be a social worker at the time. And, we're super excited about getting that in at the company, that provided those services for children. So I could kind of gain exposure and kind of start that career path. I was adopted actually when I was a teenager. So I think because of that, I had in my mind, I wanted to be a social worker because I could relate to children in, similar situations. Well, I got the job and I really fell in love with the HR aspects of the position. And for various reasons, just decided that, the social worker career path really wasn't for me. So, over the last 10 years, I've really been in various HR roles and, had the opportunity to build and improve really every facet of the HR function. So, recruiting, onboarding, benefits, employee relations, compensation, employee engagement, development, compliance, offboarding, and, all of that.
Small business HR wears a lot of hats, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So many hats. And I think I fell in love with HR just because I really like and I really love being a part of the employee experience. I love providing management solutions on how to get the best from their employees and really help businesses meet their goals through people solutions. And I'm super passionate about being a part of that business success. And I think a huge part of that is creating a space where, all level of employees can do their best work. So that's just a little bit about my career and, why I love HR.
No, I love that. I think that resonates so much. I think, one of the things I've noticed since kind of getting into the HR space a little bit, I come from a more of a marketing background, but as I've gotten into the HR space, one of the trends I've noticed is, exactly what you just talked about, that shift towards employee experience, and businesses are starting to realize finally, thankfully, right, that their most important assets are their people. And as you can improve the experience for your people, it improves all aspects of your business. Like there's definitely a direct tie to, as your employees have a better experience, then, your customers have a better experience, you make more money, on and on and on and on, right? There's so many things that impact that healthy business. So I love that you talked about that. Sure. So tell us more about Sundance though.
All right. So Sundance, actually known as Sundance Catalog. So Sundance Catalog, we're a premium American lifestyle omni-channel retailer. Kind of a mouthful, but we sell apparel, accessories, jewelry, and home decor. We were founded over 30 years ago by Robert Redford. A lot of people have heard of him. He's a famous actor and director, and we're headquartered in Salt Lake and have several retail stores across the country. The Sundance brand is amazing. I absolutely love it. When you work for Sundance, you feel a part of something special. And they have beautiful, unique products that are either handmade, designed in-house, or just really not commonly found elsewhere, or have like a really cool story behind them. So, it's been a really fun and, rewarding experience so far.
Yeah, that's great. It definitely is an iconic brand that lots of people know. And it sounds like it all started kind of from the same place. You have the resort, you have the film festival, you have the catalog, but now they've kind of separated out. They're separate companies for the most part, right? The catalog is
Yeah.
separate and kind of run as a separate company and retail, omni-channel retailer than the resort and film festival and everything else. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly correct. So we were actually founded over 30 years ago by Robert Redford, but there's a general store at the Sundance Resort, and they had a lot of specialty items that was gaining a lot of popularity, and like guests would frequently write requesting those items, and that just kind of started the catalog. And kind of fast forward 30 years later, the catalog is a piece, but it's we have a lot of retail stores and we have a great online presence, and it's turned into this really beautiful legacy brand,
I
which has
love
been
it.
really cool.
Very cool. Well, hey, I'm excited to jump into our topic today. So when you and I were chatting about what should we talk about on this episode today, you kind of posed this idea of why HR needs a growth mindset. And I thought that was a really cool, interesting topic to dive into today. So just to kind of set the stage for our listeners, explain to us what you mean when you say a growth mindset. What is it and why is it important, especially for HR?
Yeah, great question. I'll first hit on like what is a growth mindset, and I'll start by saying I'm super passionate about the concept of learning and growth, because I think that when we have that growth mindset, we're able to push ourselves to be and to do great things, which not only positively impacts us professionally, but personally as well. And I definitely think that HR professionals in general need to have a learning and that growth mindset in this ever-changing climate that we're in. And people who are able to hone in on the importance and the necessity of learning and growth can just have such a huge impact on the employee experience and the organization as a whole that they're a part of. And so there are a few things that come to my mind when defining a growth mindset. To me, it's about seeking opportunities to learn and to gain more knowledge in areas that maybe you're already familiar with, or that's totally new to you. And it's just having that overall willingness to like never stay stagnant. Not saying this is the way we've always done it and I'm not going to change. It is what it is. I think that people who have that mindset tend to miss opportunities. And that could really add value to employees and add value to the organization. Another aspect of having a growth mindset, I would say, is asking questions. Seek to understand not only how things are done, but why things are done. Because I think when you do that, you can have, a more holistic understanding of, what you're looking into. And it's really about having that mind shift about viewing challenges that you face within, let's say, your role, organization, or challenges within tasks as more of an opportunity to learn, and an opportunity for growth and to overcome and succeed versus, focusing on like the negative aspects of the situation.
Yeah, I love this topic. This just resonates with me so much because so at Eddie, our company, we do a book of the month where everyone who wants to can participate in reading a book of the month. And the book that we're reading this month is called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. He talks about the difference between an infinite mindset and a finite mindset and the different games that we play. And so anyways, it's just resonating with me because I've just been reading that book, and so many things that you just said are things that he talks about that so often in business, we approach it like it's a finite game, right? That has established rules and we have a finite mindset, but in reality, it's not. Like it's an infinite game, and there's not established rules. And so what that means is we have to constantly be learning and growing and evolving, and you use changes that happen in your business or in your work as opportunities for new growth instead of guarding them and trying to prevent those from happening. So anyways, I'm sorry for the side note there, but this is just resonating so much with me because I just started reading that book and I loved it.
I know it's super exciting. And I don't know, that's why I'm so passionate about it. Cause I've just seen in my career, the power that can come from having that growth mindset. And also I think like being adaptable, like it's changing your perspective on when failure happens, because it will. I mean, we're humans, right? It tends to be unavoidable for us. Viewing it as, okay, I'm going to self-reflect, I'm going to adjust, and I'm going to move on and do better. It's like, okay, I know X and Y is not working or producing really the best outcome or the best result. So I'm going to try, pivot and try Z,
Yeah.
So, I mean, just to kind of wrap up, like, what is a growth mindset? To me, I would really say what it comes down to is just the desire to be better than you were, last year, last month, or, even yesterday. So,
yeah, I love it. And I think that mindset, it seems like, I mean, that's something that's important for anyone to have, right?
Totally.
But why do you think it's especially important for those who work in HR to have that growth mindset? What is it about that role of HR where that's really needed?
Yeah. And that's a loaded question. I think the HR profession and any HR person would say, like, it's so broad, right? It covers so many different areas. I mean, just to name a few, like recruiting, onboarding, benefits, training, career pathing, and then it's like compensation. Oh, let's focus on employee development, employee engagement. Oh, we have to worry about legal compliance and employee relations and organizational design, like, all the way to being that seat at the table that's a part of accomplishing business outcomes through, strategic employee initiatives. So, some departments are, some HR departments are even expected to do things like payroll, company events and activities, safety, like the list just goes on and on. Yeah, on and on. And I think within each of those areas, there's such a huge range on like what you can do. Like, let's take onboarding, for example. Like, you can certainly send someone new hire paperwork, make sure they complete it, do their Form I-9, make sure they have access to what they need, review company policies. That's like the basic level of like, okay, I'm going to use air quotes, onboarding. But I think HR can even take even that aspect so much further to develop an onboarding, a robust onboarding program that, makes the new hire feel welcome, conveys and gets them pumped about the mission, vision, and values, and ensure that they have, defined training plans, that, that they know what to expect for 30, 60, 90 days, let's say, and, they have regular feedback, they have go-to people within the organization, you're educating them on functions within the organization and how that all works, and it comes together as a whole, and so much more in that onboarding piece. And I kind of laugh because when I hear people outside of HR say like, oh, you work in HR, do you just hire and fire? And I kind of chuckle and say like, oh, that's cute. And, I use it as an opportunity to educate them on, what HR does and the impact they can have, and kind of be a part of that, part of changing that Toby Flenderson perspective, of the office. So, I think kind of starting out of why it's important, it's because there's so many different things that cover, the HR profession. And, my boss, who's been a huge mentor and a supporter in my life for years, once said to me that the only thing that you can count on is change. And I'm pretty sure I heard it before, right? I think we probably all have, and it's a really simple sentence, but it really changed my outlook. And I was like, whoa, like change is going to happen and it's unavoidable. Like there's nothing we can do about it. And so if it's going to happen and we're going to spend time and energy in it, then, let's spend positive energy and use it for growth, learning, and improvement.
Yeah. One thing that resonates with me from that, as I think about the role of HR, I think change is inherent in the role of HR, especially maybe even more than other roles across a company, right? Like the fact that HR takes some of the things that you just talked about, hiring and firing, there's inherent change in an organization that's, part of that, or coaching and training employees and teaching. There's inherent change that's going to come about as a result of an HR person doing their job. It could be good, it could be bad, you know what I mean? And so I think that change is a big piece for me as I hear you say that really resonates, especially for those in HR, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, just we operate in several different states. So we have to worry. I mean, just one aspect of change is just on a simple note is, you're worried about federal and state, and then now there's local laws for all of these different states. And, kind of outside the legal compliance piece, it's, and you have to keep a pulse on like, what's happening out there and what are employees now expecting. And you have to be able to, adjust to that. And, I think gone are the days where companies are wanting this paper pushing, like transactional HR. I think if anything, more and more, companies are looking for HR to help solve problems within the organization and really be that trusted partner. That's a part of achieving their business goals.
And I think that's the key piece, right? Like, I think that smart companies are realizing that their people are their most important assets, and they need not an administrative HR person who just gets people to sign their onboarding paperwork, but a strategic HR person who can really help guide the company on creating an excellent employee experience, because it will result in tangible business outcomes, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's definitely been a shift with leadership, and they think about the employee experience more, and they're looking for HR to provide those solutions. So, why it's important for all of those reasons. And, I think the more the more that you can share that knowledge and with your team, with, employees, with managers, and be that resource. Like, for example, it's something as simple as just educating someone on the company benefits and how benefits work, all the way to, helping a manager have a difficult conversation with an employee and giving them skills that they can use not only in, that conversation, but conversations moving forward so they can get the best outcome. You can be involved in creating a compensation program that pays people fairly, like all the way to recommending and being involved in those strategic business and, employee initiatives. So that's why I'm just so passionate about it, and think that, HR can, if they have that growth and learning mindset and, be able to adapt and change, just can add so much value.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is totally true. So next question I have for you then is, I know for small business HR people, especially who are the solo HR person or they're on a small team, everything that you just talked about, there is so many things for that small HR department to be responsible for. So having a mindset of how do I learn and improve across all of these areas, I think is definitely key and important. But what should HR be focused on? How do you prioritize all of those potential things you could be learning and ways you could be helping the organization grow to, focus on the most important things, right? Because there are so many different things there. I think that's a big challenge that a lot of small business HR people face, especially, is like, where do I start? Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would venture to say that, not only myself, but a lot of HR people just, feel like there's just a lot going on. Right. And, as far as like what HR should be focused on learning, I don't know that I have like a specific answer for that. Like, this is what HR should be focused on learning, because I think that depends on, what the person does and, what they want to learn, where they want to be, and, what the organization expects of them. But like as a whole, in general, I would say, I believe that HR needs to understand like what the best practices are in whatever area that, that covers. They need to know compliance related items. It's so important to know how to communicate effectively, like have those stellar interpersonal skills that can gain buy-in for HR initiatives. I would say like HR needs to be able to have the ability to solve complex problems and resolve conflict, and be technology proficient, and like the
there's a
list
lot
just
for
goes
sure
on and on, like all the way to being able to, okay, how do we help get the best out of employees and a manager so the organization can accomplish those objectives, right? So I hope
that's good. No, that's good. So what I'm hearing you say though, like the takeaway for me from what you just said is, if you're an HR person who feels like they're stretched too thin, you need to find a way to carve out some time to learn and to grow and to deepen your knowledge in each of these areas. Because if you're just focused on the execution, the administrative tasks when it comes to HR, you can only go so deep in each of those areas, and you're going to max out your own knowledge and experience, right? So you got to be able to carve out some dedicated time to learn and to grow and to develop. And that will help you immensely in knowing how to help the organization push each of those functions further. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. You nailed it. Good job.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I want to get into more of like the tangible tips then of this. So what are some of your tips for developing that learning and growth mindset? What has worked for you?
Okay. One of our internal department values is to be curious. And I love that. It really means like continually finding ways to grow and develop, like keep an open mind to others' ideas and opinions, encourage the sharing of thoughts, seeking to understand, like I said, why things are done, and, looking for ways to improve effectiveness and approach, and, never settle with this is the way it's always been done, evase innovation and change. So that's been super powerful to me and to my team. And I have an absolute amazing team here at Sundance, and I think that they all embody that. If the issue is going back to lack of time, I would ask yourself, is what I'm spending time on adding value? Is it helping me accomplish our goals, the company goals? If not, ask yourself, why you're doing it. You can look at scheduled meetings. Are they effective, or, can those be tweaked? Is there technology that you can utilize that already exists that, maybe you just need to implement some things that aren't currently being utilized, then that can remove some, manual work and free up some time. And, just like you said, making time, like scheduling it out, put it on the calendar, make it happen. You're more likely to do something if it's planned and scheduled. One thing we've had to do internally here is, analyze our internal processes and find if there's any redundancies in what we're doing. Because just like you said, there's, when you work with a small team and there's a lot of areas to cover and a lot of initiatives, we not only, want to maintain everything that we put in place, but we want to do more things that can, impact employees and impact the organization. And so, we've really had to take a deep dive in analyzing the redundancies and the necessities of our process, and kind of shift to, spending our time in ways that add value. Another thing that I've done at a previous company is incorporate learning into existing things. So, we had a monthly team meeting where we would do various things, and we would incorporate taking turns learning about something new to us, and then, learning about it and having the ability to teach it to others. Other tips I can think of for HR professionals is, the national and SHRM local membership provide a lot of information, and, getting your HR certification is amazing, furthering your education. And I would say, like, make or develop relationships within your network. There's plenty of people out there, especially, the area that we're in, that have so much knowledge and so much experience. So I think tapping into those would be meaningful. And so
excellent tips. Yeah.
Yeah. And one last thing I thought of is just doing things I think that scare you and push you to stretch yourself, because I think that's when growth can really take place,
Yeah. I love that. I think that's totally true. And I'm just hearing you talk about this conversation is just reminding me of some previous episodes we've done where, the topic has come up on how HR sometimes has a branding problem. We've talked about that on previous episodes, and how HR is just the red tape people at a lot of companies, where you have to like stop talking around the water cooler when they walk past, right? Because you don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think part of that kind of goes back to exactly what you're talking about. Part of how we change that perception of HR at companies internally is by developing this growth mindset, being open to and embracing change, and getting the feedback from others, and learning, and that, we don't know everything. And so it's going to constantly evolve and improve, and some of our policies and procedures and everything will do that as well. And so I think that's one of the ways that as employees see that, it helps to change that internal perception of HR people and their focus and purpose. So they're not just the red tape people, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's a struggle, and it definitely needs to be a balance, because I mean, there's things that, have to be done from, a legal and compliance perspective.
Sure.
But, I think it's, framing your conversations to where it's not so much about the red tape, but there's the why behind it. And, you're talking about, hey, what's in it for them, and, explaining why, this is done to, help them gain a little bit more understanding.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, Amber. Really, really appreciate you joining and kind of sharing some of these insights. I think that developing this growth mindset is important for every employee everywhere, but I definitely, after this conversation, understand now better why it's especially important for HR and how to go about doing it. So this has been so great.
Thank you. This has been fun.
So one of the last questions I have for you that we like to ask, everyone who comes on is part of our vision at Eddy. Part of what we believe as a company is that building a healthy business is one of the most charitable things you can do if you do it the right way. So for you, what is the quote unquote right way to build a healthy business?
Quote unquote, the right way to build a healthy business. I think I would say, making sure that expectations are clear with employees. They know what's expected of them, that they're taken care of, that there's opportunity for growth. And I think having things in place and leaders in place that really care about the employee experience, because I think we talked about this previously, like more and more businesses are realizing that, that they need to be focused on that employee experience in order for them to continue to grow and succeed. And so I think kind of honing in on looking at not only how you can be charitable outside of your organization, but charitable within your organization to employees, and working on, improving that employee experience. And, so yeah.
Focus on your people, and the business will take care of itself, right?
Yeah.
It's good. I love it. Awesome. Well, if there are listeners who have follow-up questions for you or want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Probably on LinkedIn. So just Amber Parr with 2 R's. So
okay. We'll drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes too, so you can find it really easily if you're listening and want to get in contact with Amber. So Amber, thanks again so much for taking the time to join the episode today. Hope you have a great rest of the day.
Okay. Thank you.